Fred. Now coming to the stage, we are proud to introduce our keynote speaker for this afternoon, Mr. Blake Irving, the board director of Autodesk DocuSign, the Flow, Hip, and Zip Recruiter Advisor, advisor to the McLaren Formula One team, and the former CEO and board director of GoDaddy Incorporated. Let's give it up for Mr.
Yeah, hell yeah! Let's go, Blake! Let's go, baby! Let's go, Blake! Let's get it!
I got hell yeah, I carried away. I also like Blow the Whistle. That's a great tune. But you didn't come here to hear me sing Blow the Whistle. So I'm gonna give you a little missive. Gonna go back in time a little bit. This is gonna be storytelling, and it's about leadership. It's about transformation, and it's about a situation I found myself in. That I think pretty much everybody finds himself in from time to time. So the story starts in a very uncomfortable place for most people, being out of work. So unless you're gearing up for retirement, being out of work kind of sucks. Like unless you're a sociopath or leading our current administration today, you are shaken to your boots because you're not working. And if you're a regular person, you're probably questioning yourself. I know I did. The reason I was out of work was my CEO at Yahoo, I was the chief product officer at Yahoo at the time, was ceremoniously fired by her board, and usually the C-suite that she hired when she goes, which is Carol Bartz, who was the CEO of Autodesk, when she goes, everybody that was in the C-suite goes with her. So I was ceremoniously canned, and so now I'm not working. I'm like, okay, well, I don't have to work. I want to work. I think I still have it in me, but my son was graduating from high school, so I'm like, I'm going to hang out with him for 9 months before he goes off to college. Well, then he goes off to college. I'm still at work, and I'm thinking, oh no, was I ever good at anything? Do I know how to speak? Do I know how to recruit? Do I know how to run a business? Can I market? Can I sell? Can I develop? I'm a product person, so I've developed products my whole life. Can I do that? When you're sitting on the bench, you're not sure. I mean, it's not rational, and my kids will say, don't worry, Dad, you're amazing. You'll find a great gig, I'm sure. Honey, you'll do fine. Don't worry about it. But when you go to bed at night and you lay your head down on the pillow, you're kind of thinking, am I going to work again? So I'm in that state, and I have a couple of things that are brewing, they're kind of happening, and I get this phone call from, anybody know Heidrick and Struggles? Yeah. Okay, so I get a phone call from Jeff Sanders at Heidrick and Struggles, the chairman of them. He goes, Blake, I haven't talked to you in a long time. I placed you at Yahoo. I placed the CEO who just took the job of the CEO you got fired because of at Yahoo, but I have an interesting proposition for you. What do you know about GoDaddy? And I said, GoDaddy? Well, that's a horrible company. Horrible. I mean, here's what I know about them. And by the way, I have 50 domain names hosted at GoDaddy because they're the best at doing that. But honestly, I kind of think of them as sort of this notorious misogynist advertiser that sells domains and websites on the side. I mean, why in God's name would I want to talk to these people? He goes, well, the founder sold out to private equity, sold to KKR and Silver Lake and TCV, and they're looking for a CEO that is a good product person, and you have a great rep in the Valley for being a good product person. Would you be interested? I don't know, man. I mean, people be thinking I joined either a race car team or a porn company if I said I did it. And I said, well, look, tell you what, send me the glamour deck, because I know you've got one that they gave you. Send that to me, and I'll go through it and see what I think. But my initial reaction is no. So I start going through this deck. And I'm like, what? You know, WTF moment for sure, because I'm looking at this thing. I thought that it was, you know, I knew it was founded by a guy that I'll talk about later. It's founded, I figured it was about 2.5, you know, maybe 250 million in revenue, somewhere around that size, which would be a healthy, big, you know, healthy business. It was 950 million in revenue. It was kicking off 50% cash flow from that $950 million of revenue. It had 85% customer retention, 80% brand recognition. The customer satisfaction scores were better than Nordstrom. I mean, I was like, this cannot be right. But it's really interesting because they made a $950 million business, and you had to transact with them in US dollars or a US payment instrument. They hadn't left the country. I'm like, oh my God, what would this look like if it was an international software company that actually did good products and all the stuff that I think about them, and I could change all that? What would that look like? And so I just started thinking about it and was going, holy mackerel, this is something I should think about. So I have conversations with the chairman of Silver Lake, Greg Mondre, 2 partners at KKR, a TCV guy, the founder of TCV, and I'm kind of getting pumped that I've kind of done my investigation on what's happening inside the company. I'm like, this could be really fun. So I start bouncing the idea off of people that I've worked with at Microsoft. I was Microsoft for 15 years, Yahoo for a while, some other tech companies. I'm like, I'm going to see what they think. And the initial reaction when I said, what do you think of GoDaddy, was exactly the same that I had. What a schlocky company, are you kidding me? And then I go through the numbers and they're like, oh, that could be legit. So I'm like, I think it could be. So I'm ready to go. The investors who bought it, KKR Silver Lake, they like me. I've met a couple of the operators inside the company. I think they need help. I like them. One of the guys that was running, the interim CEO, was a KKR guy. Talk more about that later. Great guy. And I'm going, okay. I'm ready. Got to meet one person though still. I haven't met the founder. Well, he owns 22% of the company still. They bought it for $2 billion, by the way. I'll get to that in a minute. Okay, this is going to feel like a really weird transition. I think we're all very fortunate to have our little special ways of meeting people and like figuring out who they are. And for me, it's really important. Well, so this little guy here is me playing golf when I was a little kid. And my mom had this theory. She wanted to keep me out of trouble, keep me out of her hair when I was 11. So her plan that she hatched was to feed me breakfast, give me a sack lunch, take me to a golf course, drop me off with some pocket change, just a public course, and I'd play the golf course. And the cool thing about that is you don't play by yourself. You play with other people. Most of them are grown-ups. They're not 11. So here's this 11-year-old kid walking around, toting his bag around, and I am playing with grown-ups. And I figured out that people expose their true selves on a golf course. You can't hide it. It's just that frustrating of a game. You know, you'll find out if somebody thinks too highly of themselves, they're too hard on themselves. Do they cheat? Do they drink too much? Do they walk? Are they healthy? Do they drive a car? Are they kind to the people they're playing with? Are they kind to their caddies? You find out so much about them. So I'm like, this is a secret weapon for me. I'm going to be able to use this forever. So in doing my research, I found out that the founder of this company was a member of a golf course that I've always wanted to play in Arizona called Whisper Rock. I go like, well, if I don't get this gig, at the very least, I'm going to play that golf course with him. So I arranged, and he thought like-mindedly that you learn a whole lot about somebody on a golf course. So we went out and we played. This is the founder of GoDaddy. And if you're familiar with PXG golf clubs, anybody in here? Familiar with that? He's also the founder of PXG. So I end up arranging to have a round of golf with Bob. And we're walking on the golf course. I find out, super funny guy. Oh, man. Irreverent, quick-witted, nice to his caddy. People were stopping by. He introduced me to Ches Reavy and Jeff Ogilvy and the owner of the club and some other guy. I mean, he was a delightful guy. And I asked him some questions. I'm like, so you got to tell me, man, like what's the deal with the misogynistic ads? Because I don't get it. And for those of you who don't know the history, Bob did Super Bowl commercials. I'll talk to you about this, but Super Bowl commercials that always featured scantily clad women. And I said, what's the deal? He goes, well, here's what I know about the Super Bowl. It's mostly guys. They're mostly drunk. What do mostly drunk guys watching football want to see besides football? Girls. So that's what I did. And I'm like, that's brilliant. You understand the human condition well enough to actually go market to these people. Fantastic. And so he did it, and he did it, and he did it, and he did it, and he did it. He did it for more than 10 years. This is actual footage of some of those commercials. They gained, okay, well, here's the crazy story. He buys 2 spots, first half spot, second half spot. The first half spot, you might remember this, is a woman standing in front of Congress and her spaghetti strap breaks and they're trying to fashion it after the wardrobe malfunction that Janet Jackson had on stage when she was with Justin Timberlake. So he's going down that path and this happens and it's insane. Now, apparently it's not all drunk guys watching the Super Bowl because lots of hate gets shot at the advertiser, the broadcaster, and they call Bob up and they say, hey man, we're not going to run that ad again. We're getting way too much heat. But what we're going to do is we're going to credit you for the first one so you won't have to pay for that. This is $3 million for 30 seconds. So, gets canceled. He's now on the speaking circuit because everybody wants to know, what the hell happened? You got a commercial cancel? How bad could it have been? Well, it was really bad. GoDaddy gained 20 points of market share in 2 weeks. And he didn't pay for it. He didn't pay a dime for it. And then he's doing Good Morning America, CBS Morning Show, and all these other things, talking about it. He's not paying for any of that. So the thing just keeps on going. He's like, well, crap, this works pretty good. I think I'm just going to keep on doing it. And he kept on doing it, and he kept on doing it. And the company eventually, as I gave you some of those numbers, it had about 80%, almost like 70% market share in the U.S., and pretty good market share outside of the U.S. because of our unbelievably dumb visa policy in the country where we bring students into the country and we educate them, especially computer scientists. We love to do this. And then what do we do with them when they're done with their degree? We send them back to their country. And they've all used GoDaddy, so they go back to their country and they're using it again. It worked. Now, another big switch for you. This is my family in 1967. California. I'm the dorky guy in the blue Nehru jacket with the big, Dumbo ears. And the little girl next to me is my sister, Lori. Lori was a brilliant person, super funny, very gritty, but also quite proper. She developed anorexia and bulimia when she was in high school. And I alerted my parents to the fact that I thought this was happening. We were able to save her. She didn't die, which can be an outcome. That's pretty common, unfortunately, if it's extreme. She was taller than me, and she weighed, I think, 85 when at the worst. Then she got back on track, went to college, became a psychologist, became a psychology professor, married another psychology professor, an experimental psychologist. she became the most influential researcher on women's body image and self-esteem and the effect that the media has on them. Now, tragically, 10 years before I took the GoDaddy job, she died. She was 9 months pregnant, and she had aortal dissection from carrying too much blood for her and the child, and she passed away. My promise to her was to do everything I could that she was doing for women's body image and self-esteem in my career, the best that I could do, and promote women and do everything I could to empower women so they have an equal playing field to men, which is what she had made her life about. She's not going to be around, so I'm going to do it too. Now, juxtapose the two people I just talked about, because it's going to inform a lot of what happens in the next 5 years of my life. Let's talk about leadership for a minute. This is a guy named James Burns, who is a presidential biographer, but he's also one of the foremost researchers on leadership. And he says there's basically two kinds of leadership. Transactional leadership, which you gotta be good at, you gotta have it. You can't improve your results if you don't have transactional leadership. This is why Unilever and Procter & Gamble and Heinz and GM, they can continue to produce good results, usually. But that's just transactional. Transformational leadership is something different. Transformational leadership, you actually have to get deep under the covers of the company, figure out what's making it tick, and look at the culture really objectively and say, this is broken, this is right, but you have to take a different approach. Yep, you got to focus on results, you got to get that done, but you also have to change the fundamentals of whatever it is you're leading. Could be a division in a business, could be a big business, could be a small business, could be whatever, but you got to climb underneath it. Super important. So transformational leadership, super important. There are two different types of transformational leadership. There's business transformation, which could be, hey, we're going to totally change the business model. I use Autodesk as an example, or Microsoft. We're a packaged software company. We're not going to do that anymore. We're going to set up billions of dollars of data centers, and everything's going to be hosted in the sky, and we're going to charge people ratably and bill them on a monthly basis instead of them giving us money for a CD. That's a business transformation. A cultural transformation is when you look at a company and you go like, oh man, pardon my French, but this shit's broken. Like, there's so many things that we've got to repair culturally for what we aspire for this company to be. And if we don't do that, then we're probably not going to have the same business results. These things are incredibly linked. And they may seem like very separate fundamental ideas, but they're not. And you have to be effective, if you've got something that I walked into, of some of the history I already gave you, there's some big things you have to make changes to. How do I start that process? So I started by visioneering what we think this company can be. And I call it a vision hypothesis. What's our vision for this company? Everybody I talked to, and I did hundreds of interviews with employees when I first went in. That's all I did. For literally the first 4 weeks, I just met with people and listened to them and talked with them and just got to understand what it was. And I had this vision hypothesis. And while I'm talking to them, I'm saying, well, I don't think we're in the domain and website hosting business. I think we're in the business of enabling people to have an idea, go buy a piece of internet real estate that represents that idea, and then turn that idea into whatever they want it to be. I own 50 of them. Some of them are really stupid ideas like stopdoingthat.com. I've actually owned that domain. It's available for resale if anybody wants it. So I mean, there's just tons, but that's what people do. They get an idea and they say, hey, I want to go do that. And so people start thinking about it. They go, wow, that's a good idea. That's kind of cool. That's how we think about it. And so I'm bouncing it off of them, bouncing it off of people that are a hell of a lot smarter than me, and probably all you guys are. They're brilliant people in this company, and now I'm just bouncing off of them, and while I'm doing it, I'm also recruiting them to my cause. Do you believe this? Does this sound like BS? Does it sound real? I believe it. I actually believe this. And I think that's what we can be. And if we could do that, think how big that could be globally. So people start going, that feels pretty good. But, I'm not sure. How do we capture that? So we captured it, and man, we worked on these words really hard. Our vision was to radically shift the global economy toward life-fulfilling independent ventures. Notice it doesn't say small business. Life-changing independent ventures means I'm working for the man. I don't want to work for the man. I want to do what I want to do. And I'll use a buddy of mine who was a window washer in San Luis Obispo, California. And he didn't want to make a boatload of money. He wanted to be able to go to his kids' baseball games during the week. He wanted to be able to employ his kids. And that was success for him. And we want to enable people to do that. There are tens of thousands of examples of people that are doing that. Some turn their businesses into really thriving businesses. But this, and these words really captured it where people went, oh my gosh, how do you even measure that? The way you would measure it, you'd have to do a 10-year look back of how fast big business grew and how fast little tiny businesses grew. And people working for themselves, which, by the way, since the advent of AI, which has been going on for a long time, is going to be a very common theme you're going to hear a whole lot about, which is sort of up there with universal income, which is pretty tricky. That's the vision. Now, the culture was super messed up. When I was doing these interviews, I was talking to frontline people, support people. I'd have meetings with like 10 people that didn't know each other from around the company, and everybody had to say something about themselves that had nothing to do with their job, nothing to do about what they thought of the company. It was about them, and so it made it very comfortable. And I started doing something that I call disarm and assail. I would start assailing things culturally in the company that I thought were broken. I had a woman one day come up to me, and she was at I'll call it a trade show in Austin, Texas, and she's in the booth, and somebody comes up to this poor woman and says, "Are you a GoDaddy girl?" Provocatively, because they've seen the commercials, because that's how the company was represented. And so I'm talking to all these people in the company, and they are ashamed. And they loathe the day after the Super Bowl, because they're going to be, some of them, we had 2,000 people that were working, thank you, they were working on phones talking to customers. And they're like, oh, we loathe the day after the Super Bowl because all we're going to hear is like how horrible it was and all. I mean, that's horrible. There were so many examples. So I'd start pulling it apart and really start hitting things that were like, okay, why are all the why is the executive suite locked down and nobody can get in here? Well, I don't know. That seems stupid. I'd love to have you guys, stop by my office all the time, and I think we're going to just open that up. Why do you have to badge in from one area to the other? I don't get that. Why does that make sense? No, I don't know. It doesn't seem to make sense. And then I stopped doing it, and then they started doing it. So I made it safe for them to assail their own company because I was assailing mine. And you're not going to say, I'm going to like, hey, what do you think screwed up about the place? The CEO. What do you think screwed up about this? You think somebody's going to tell you? It's the new CEO. I'm not telling this guy anything. I don't know. Found out they're not allowed to wear flip-flops. They're not allowed to wear hats. They're not allowed to decorate their cubicles. Here's the funniest one. Well, maybe not the funniest, but it was the funniest to me. I've been there a week. Friday afternoon, and the CFO of the company, this is a $1 billion company, comes in and goes, hey man, you haven't signed my time card. Your time card? Mike, why would you have a time card, buddy? He's like, well, how are you going to know I'm working? I'm like, let me ask you a question. How many hours a week do you work? He goes, I'm like, 70 probably, maybe, about a really busy week when it's coming to close, maybe 80, casual week. I go, well, how many hours you put on your time card? Oh, 40. Okay, well, why does that make sense? He goes, I don't know, that's just the way we've been doing it. I mean, how are you going to know anybody's working if you don't have a time card? I'm like, well, let me ask you this. How am I going to be able to hire developers from Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, eBay, Facebook, Meta, whatever you want to call them? How am I going to hire in those people if I'm going to tell them, welcome to GoDaddy, here's your time card? They're not going to work here. So, no more time cards. This is just my first Friday. No more time cards. How are we going to pay people? I go, you're the CFO, you'll figure it out. He goes, okay. Goes back into his office. Everybody got paid. No more time cards, unless you're an hourly employee and then you got a time card, because then it makes sense. But that happened. And the more I pulled on these threads from people feeling like this is messed up, it turns out there was a fundamental, remember the picture of Bob had USMC on his shoulder. He was a Marine. Credits the Marines for his success. They certainly were amazing, but he ran the company like it was a military operation. And so people felt distrusted by almost every measure that I talked to them about. And so I'm like, okay, we're just going to flip this on its head. I'm going to assume you're all trustable. Those of you who are not trustable, you're just going to be fired because you shouldn't be working here. But you're all trusted. So all the things that were screwed up, you can't get into this area, you can't get into that area, you got a badge over here, you got to fill out a time card, all this crap, we just got rid of it. We're going to flip it on its head and say, this is a trusted environment, and you're all welcome to do your absolute best. And how important to me was it? Remember, I said no baseball hats, no flip-flops. This is in Scottsdale, Arizona. It's 120 degrees in the summer. No flip-flops, no baseball hats, no shorts. So what do you think I did? I'm going to work in flip-flops, shorts, baseball hats. I'm walking through the customer care center with this stuff on, and I get wind that people have said that you don't like people to look into your eyes. Don't look at his eyes. Don't look at his eyes. Which, from Bob, from the founder, that could be a thing. Don't look at his eyes. So I'm walking around with my flip-flops and my shorts and my baseball hat on and looking people in the eye and asking them how their day's going. And I mean, you have to demonstrate. You can't just talk about it. You have to be it. That's the most important thing, I think, about cultural transformation. I'll talk more about this in a minute. All right, so we had that vision statement. Remember that was. 220-200, I know it sounds like an Applebee's commercial. Two entrees, 20 appetizers. You don't want to eat here for 200 days. Because that's I don't know how many of you have eaten at Applebee's, but that's just how I feel about it. So in reality, what 220-200 is, it's a methodology I use for getting very precise on taking something that's from a vision all the way down to yearly action plans. So what I do operationally is I write a 2-page document that is prose. You're watching me go through PowerPoint. And I have a talk track with this, but I can change my talk track anytime I want, and they're just bullets on a slide, so you can, depending on your audience, you just change what you're saying. Anybody do that? Everybody does that. If it's prose, you can't interpret it. It's prose, it's written. So we'd do a 2-page document that would go to the entire company about what we think this place can be, which was everything I've talked to you about. This is how important we can be. This is how many countries we're going to go into. This is, not details, but enough to make people go, man, that's a hairy, audacious goal. This is cool. I want to be part of this. If you didn't want to be part of it, you can go do something else. 20-page only goes to the top leaders in the company. And it gets down into who our competitors are, what's our product roadmap going to look like. It's a lot of deets that if it fell into a competitor's hands would be a real problem. Super important, so everybody is singing from the same hymnal throughout the year in detail. Those first 2 documents cover 3 to 5 years. And some financials, 3 to 5 year financials on what we think this is going to look like. Private company, we're not public, so I don't have to worry about the street getting hold of it and freaking out or anything like that, which is a benefit. And then the 200-page document is a yearly plan, incredibly detailed, that goes to accounting, goes to finance, goes to the board. It has the budget, requires approval, so it actually means a whole lot. We did this thing, I'll share an aside, we did a video that you can find on YouTube called The Manifesto of Kick-Ass. And after we had done our vision document and went through this process, and we just gave the 200-pager to the board, we did this video, the Kick-Ass video, as I like to call it, the Manifesto of Kick-Ass, and it had our employees, a video of our employees talking about what we do and who we do it for. And it was so powerful. So we give them the document, they get to read it, they go through that, and then we show them this video before our lunch break. And it's just silence. Like the board is just like, their minds are blown. And Rick Kimball, who is the founder of TCV, Technology Crossover Ventures, is emotionally moved. He's sitting on my left, and he's kind of, shoulders are like crying. And I walk over to him after, and I put my hand on his shoulder, and I say, pretty moving. He goes, yeah, we're going to make so much fucking money. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot you're a venture capitalist. Right, okay, yes, that's also moving. All right, so let's, so I've got the 200-pager, 20-pager vision document, and now my entire life, and I think my family would say they were glad I left after 5 years, my entire life was being a beacon for everything that I just described. My internal communications, external communications, like I was just on point all the time. And something that we know with social media now, you can't have 2 brand truths, ever. You can have 1 brand truth. Because if you try to have some brand truth inside your company and another one outside your company, and I'll use Travis Kalanick and Uber going back about 8 years ago. Yeah, we're the people's car company, we're doing all this stuff, and then it was this horrible culture inside the company that was just totally broken. It's telling everybody outside what it is, and then inside the company, people know it's not that. Well, what do you think? You think the stuff that's inside the company leaks automatically outside? Of course it does. That's why you don't give the 20-pager to everybody in the company, because I've had competitors going, hey, I saw that 2-pager you did. Pretty amazing. That just happens. So being the beacon for the cause was incredibly important and was my job. And it was so tiring. One of the most important things we did that demonstrated the cultural change that we made is we did a hard shift. A juxtaposed shift to showing women as, football bros, passion at the Super Bowl. We totally flipped it on its head and went the other direction. That was the easy part. There's a whole bunch of other things we did too, which I'll talk about, but here's my first Super Bowl ad. This is one woman named Gwen Dean. Gwen was a water engineer for the city of New York. That was her full-time gig. On the side, her side hustle was she built puppets. These are her puppets. And she did puppet shows. And she wanted her full-time gig to be puppet shows. So in our 30-second spot, we had John Turturro and Gwen, and John gets up there and talks. Gwen has something he wants to say right now to you. Names Gwen's boss. And Gwen just says, "I quit." And quits in front of, millions and millions of people on the Super Bowl, one of which was her boss, which we had filmed in a bar in Yonkers. And he spit his beer out and laughed, and then she calls him up and goes, "Oh, I really quit. That was real. That really happened." 50% of small businesses are owned by women. You think maybe you might want to show them how they see themselves versus how a bunch of football bros see them? If you leave our country, more than 50% of women are small business people. More than 50%. So it's a hugely important demographic that we were just, not representing properly at all. So hugely important. And speaking of hugely important, remember Danica Patrick? Anybody remember her? She's a sports announcer now, I think. Yeah, the most successful woman open wheel race car driver around, and she was the woman who was scantily dressed and be putting in all these crazy, awkward situations. And so when I took the gig, I had a meeting with Danica, brought her in my office, said, "Hey, great to meet you. I'm a car guy. Love what you do. Don't know why you're in NASCAR," because at that point she was in NASCAR and we had a different IndyCar driver. Said, "You're one of the best open wheel drivers of all time, and now you're just getting knocked around." I said, I have a favor to ask. Would you be pissed if we don't show you as the sexy, hot, leather-bound, race car driver, and we started showing you as a smart, intelligent entrepreneur who represents women in a real powerful way?" She goes, "Yeah, that'd be cool." Okay, good. So that's what we're going to do. This is a picture of Danica with a 50-pound weight suit on, running in front of a bunch of bodybuilders, and they end up running up to the front of a woman's tanning booth, who's a small business as well. And it was just really fun to make, and just kind of, again, flipped Danica on its head, so all of a sudden people were not seeing her the same way they saw her before. Bob Parsons, the founder, thought it was an absolute abomination and couldn't believe I had done that. He's like, "That's not how Danica..." Anybody knows Bob's voice, if you ever heard a PXG commercial. "That's not how you represent her. She's hot. She should look hot." I go, "She looks strong, right?" And by the way, this was how women would rather be represented, showing up at a woman's business who's spray tanning bodybuilders. That was her job. Super important. Now, advertising was the easy part. Now you got to convince the people inside your company that you're for real, you're really doing it. So I started an ERG, and we'll talk about how this has fallen out of favor, but an employee resource group that was called Women in Technology, GoDaddy Women in Technology. This was the person who was chairing it, who I have an interesting story about later. We had immediately hundreds of people that enrolled in this, and we would bring people onto campus that were women leaders. I'll give you an example. This is Maria Claway, the president of Harvey Mudd. I had these conversations with these very powerful women, Gina Davis, Maria Claway, Tella Whitney, who's the chairman and founder of the Anita Borg Foundation, for those of you who know what the Grace Hopper Conference is. And I'd have to have the same conversation with them. Here's what's happening at GoDaddy. Here's what we're doing for women in technology. Here's how we're going to represent that. And because Maria actually, funny, talked to her husband and said, "Hey, I've been invited to go speak at GoDaddy. I'm going to meet with the CEO. I'm going to hang out with his executive staff, and then I'm going to go speak at this event." And what did her husband say to her? "GoDaddy? That's a horrible company." It was the same reaction I had. So, and I've been there by now. I've been there a year. It takes a really long time to change this, and you have to throw so much muscle in it. But building these advocates would all of a sudden start creating a network of women outside of the company. Inside of the company's covered. Got every powerful woman inside the company. We actually, in the course of my tenure of 5 years, we went from being a misogynist advertiser to being one of the top 12 companies to work for in the U.S. if you're a technical woman. That was a big deal. Focus internally, get people on your side on the outside, bring them in, let them tell your story so you don't have to tell it anymore. We went further. I'm the only guy who's keynoted the Grace Hopper Conference, which is an all-women computing conference that gets 12 to 20,000 people at it. And I've talked to the story. That slide that I put up with that had all the GoDaddy commercials on it, I actually put that on a slide at the Grace Hopper Conference in front of 10, 15,000 women, I think it was. That was a comfortable moment for me. But to tell the story, you actually have to start there. And then you have to tell them what you're doing. So I went as far as actually sharing salary data and then working with guys like Satya Nadella and Jeff Weiner and some other folks to actually have them do the same. That was about what women make and what men make. Now, if you look at this chart, you're thinking, wow, women are doing really well. It's not about pay. It's about promotion trajectory. If a man is 30% qualified for a role, what do you think he says? I'm ready. I'll figure it out on the job. If a woman, and this is backed up by the Clayman Institute at Stanford, which does a bunch of gender parity research, if a woman is 80% qualified for a role, she has 20% more that she needs to do before she's ready for it. My CTO, my first board appointee was a woman, Betsy Raphael. My CTO that I appointed weeks after I joined was a gay woman. And I remember having a conversation. This is another one of those, what the hell is the company doing thing. I went to the CHRO, Chief Human Resources Officer. Hey, tell me where we stand on partner benefits. He goes, oh, we don't do that. I go, what do you mean? Well, we live in Arizona, man. You don't have to do that in Arizona. I said, well, it's not about being in Arizona. It's about doing the right thing and being able to hire people that are really capable, whether they're straight, whether they're gay, whether they're black, whether they're Hispanic. I mean, it doesn't matter. We should be doing the right thing for all people. She goes, well, we don't do that. And I'm like, well, I just made an offer to a woman who's gay, who has a partner, and she asked me about partner benefits. And I told her I'd look at it over the weekend. I'm going to talk to you on Monday, and by Monday morning, we offer partner benefits. Right? And she's like, yes, we do. She was gone in about a month, maybe two, because you have to do that too. Unfortunately, that's the crummy part of the job. But if you want to change, if people that don't want to change shouldn't be hanging out. One other story. I'm going to go back a couple slides. This woman, we hired. I let this happen. This is on my watch. We hired 2 vice presidents of product management in different divisions. Company's 5,000 to 6,000 people now, so it's big enough to actually have different business units. Hire her. Hire another person. She's from Microsoft. He's from Oracle. Same job. When you make an offer to somebody, you base your offer on what they're currently making. Cash offer. Stock is by level, so they're going to get the same amount of stock with each other. Their bonus might be different, and their salary might be different. So we make them the same offer, not the same offer, we make them an offer, same week, and the guy accepts. Gail accepts. And I'm walking out to my car on a Friday, and I ask the Chief Human Resources, our Chief Human Resources Officer, our new Chief Human Resources Officer, I should say, hey, can you look into what we're paying Gail? Let's just go back inside real quick and I want to go see the 2 offers. I just have a hunch. Based on this data, I have a hunch. And so we go back and we look. She's offered $20,000 a year less than the man. And as it turns out, women are carrying their salary disparity to the next company because they weren't getting promoted at a trajectory that was appropriate in their previous company. And I'm like, oh my God, this is pay it backward. This weird phenomenon, which we then saw over and over and over again, and started to do things inside the company that ensured that wouldn't happen to us, where we were making sure new employees were reviewed for promotion regardless of gender, because that whole notion of like, dude, I'm ready for the next job, bro, was happening, and the women weren't doing that. So we reneged our offer to Gail on Friday. I said, go call her and tell her you're reneging her offer. Don't tell her not to freak out. We'll have a better offer on Monday. And we matched the numbers of the guy on Monday when she showed up. How do you think that resonated in the company? I mean, that was like putting your money where your mouth is. I mean, that's real money. So that was important. Okay, go back to the original slide of the tawdry women and all the T's and A's and all that stuff. This is the New York Stock Exchange on our IPO day. These are customers, customer support people. Yes, I got to do it too. Me, the head of the New York Stock Exchange, and you'll notice there are 7 women on stage. It's just, it's a really wonderful group of people. The little blonde gal who's in front was the perfect story. She started a little jewelry company. I'm working for somebody, I hate working for them, I'm going to start my little jewelry company, and it blows up into like a $500,000 company. Never been to New York before. And I'm like, oh, I've totally ruined you. Your first trip to New York, you're ringing the bell at the New York Stock Exchange, you are hosed. But that was it. I mean, it was good. We went out, we didn't break issue. I think in the next year we were up $50. Yeah, it's good, pretty fun. And fun to do with these people. So your job, in summary, your job is to become, when you're trying to do a cultural transformation, is to become a belief creation machine, and you have to put so much energy into it. It's a pain in the ass. It is so exhausting and tiring, and you have to do it all the time. You have to do it on CNBC, you have to do it on Fox News. You have a bad quarter, you got to do it when you have a bad quarter. You got to do it when you got a great quarter. You got to do it whoever you're talking about. Never lose those talking points that you've talked inside the company about, and you're going to talk maybe with not as much certainty outside, especially when you become a public company, because then you have to actually mask stuff and can't talk about things. But you have to be that. Everybody. I don't care if you're a division chief at a big business, you're a branch manager at a bank. You got to chart your course and decide what you're going to be, and then let everybody else know. So what do you have to go through over the course of the next, let's call it 5 years? How many people are encountering this now? Pretty much all of you? Whether you know it or not, you are. Whether it's a chat bot that you're talking to on the internet, I saw the most, I don't know if you know of a company called Anthropic. They have an agent called Claude that will help you write code. I saw a Claude demo where it was talking to a customer, selling the customer insurance and loan consolidation. It was an AI agent. And he closed, it was a man's voice, closed the deal. Starts talking about the person's Volvo that he bought at the dealership. Then it goes on to talk about, how do you like your Volvo? How's it working out for you? Who insures you? How much are you paying for it? We have a better deal than that. We noticed, the AI looks at another database and starts going through the database and says, oh, we also know that you have 3 loans, that this is what your interest rate is. We can consolidate that and save you $400 a month. This is an AI agent. It's not a real person. Closes the deal. And he did this demo at a conference. This is the CTO of Kavak is the name of the company. It's a Latin American car trading. It's like Carvana, but it's for Latam. Amazing. So that's the promise of it. The threat of it is we might right now, on this very day, be at maximum employment. How many, like a year ago, how many jobs did we add to the rolls? 140 40,000. How many, in March of 2025, how many jobs did we add? 70. I'm on the board of ZipRecruiter. I will tell you, recruiting business right now is not good. The entire market. The entire market. So AI is going to improve bottom line, and the way it's going to work is the stress and pressure on other companies that are not doing it, because earnings are going to start showing that people aren't spending as much money, are going to start rolling into other companies, and analysts are going to go, why aren't you doing the same thing company X is doing? Because their profit's way better than yours, so you've got to start employing the same stuff they're doing. That's happening right now. And it's kind of scary. I used to show, I did a speech at MIT once where we ended up talking about universal income, because I went through this whole dialogue about, like, here's a factory. This is a picture of the Tesla factory. Nobody's in it. It's all bots. It's all AI. It's all bots. This is 5 years ago. So this isn't new. It's been happening right under our chins. But now it's going to start becoming your analyst, your broker. I mean, it's pretty profound. And then, honestly, I put the picture in just to be provocative. I don't even know what to say. Every day, there's a new, come on. You can't. I know CEOs and companies that will not say what they think because they are afraid that they're going to get smashed. Walmart CEO, the Apple CEO. Like, these are big-time, big company CEOs who are nervous about doing the right thing. Now, most of us have adopted, and I'll talk about DEI in a minute, most of us have adopted the do more, say less. So we're all scrubbing proxies, we're all taking words that the government has deemed as illegal, because clearly, white guy privilege wasn't really a thing. And, certainly that was really the class that needs protecting, which is what's going on in DEI right now. It's the most screwed up, backwards thing I have ever been a part of. And for somebody who spent most of their career, at least from the time my sister passed, trying to level the playing field for people, it really makes me mad. Anyway, enough said on this. DEI. I've seen the words equity, equality, taken out of corporate documents because of new laws. You don't want to break laws. And the conversation that we had on DocuSign's board was, we're just going to do more and say less. And we're going to make sure everybody in the company knows that we're going to do the same thing, because it's the right thing to do. It's not hard. It's not complicated. And, the country's going in a direction that is very strange to me. This might be the thing that's the most concerning from my perspective. Like, DEI has always been really, really important to me, and now the D in DEI stands for dystopian for me, because it just is, I don't get it. But thank God I'm not operating anymore, I just give advice. Because if you're operating still, it's very, very tricky. And the CEOs that are running these companies that are trying to do the right thing and are being, people saying, like, I don't want to be the tallest nail on the board, so I'm going to try to bring myself down to what everybody else is doing, so I'm not just putting myself out there. Really kind of a bummer, And then finally, and you can just combine all these things, the risk and uncertainty. There's some opportunities with tariffs too. Most of it's super risky. Small businesses are going crazy. It can't be predicted. You don't know when it's happening. You don't know if what they said was going to happen is going to be let go the next week, and it's going to be 5% instead of 25%, and now it's on this, and it's on things that are under $250. I mean, it's so confusing that small business people, big business people, are having trouble navigating it and understanding it, because there's no solid ground. There's just nothing. You're standing on sand, and the sand just kind of drifts out underneath your feet. Anyway. Well, I know that's kind of a dour way to finish a compelling speech, but that's kind of where we are. The next 5 years, and I don't know what the presidential countdown is. I don't know how many more years we have to put up with that, but I guarantee you somebody's going to try to make it more than 2 terms. So I don't know how long that's going to go, but this is at a starting line like none we have seen in a long time. And I remember when I took GoDaddy public, a friend of mine, Jerry Yang, who was the founder of Yahoo, called me up. He goes, "Hey, I saw the numbers, looks really good. Welcome to the starting line. Because there's a whole new ball of wax now." And he was right. But I'll tell you, that's still like the funnest gig I think I ever had in my life. After 15 years at Microsoft, a few years at Yahoo, 7 years at Xerox when I was like in my 20s. Yeah, that was pretty good. All right, that's all my comments, and so I still have 4 minutes, 50 seconds for questions, if anybody has any. Question, hand in the back.
Can you speak a little louder, please?
Sure. Donald Trump recently had a table of tech executives that were talking about the new billions of dollars, Microsoft, Apple. I'm just wondering what your advice is for minorities who are trying to enter this tech market now, this tech business where we are definitely, there's no seat at the table. We kind of have to find our way.
Yeah.
What do you, in your great expertise, what do you recommend that clients or people that want to enter that space either say nothing about their race, or what do you think?
I mean, there's some governmental benefit, or at least there was some government benefit to being a woman or a minority if you were starting a business. Don't know if that's the case anymore. If I think about friends that have started businesses, Larry and Sergey at Google, the kind of different backgrounds. I think the reason that most companies are successful isn't like, look at me, it's like, look at my customer and look at what I'm doing for my customer. Jerry Yang was an Asian immigrant when he started Yahoo. And he was just trying to, like, how do I delight my customers? If I delight my customers, do I have a value proposition and a business model that makes it seem like what I'm doing is really valuable and important? I know a lot of, my son runs a company in Latin America, and I think they have some of the same issues in inverse. But again, it's like, focus on your value proposition, focus on not so much having a seat at the table, focus on making sure your customers feel like they are bettered by using whatever it is that you're developing for them. Weird story. I felt that when I was at Microsoft, because I was in a double type A testosterone-laden business run by Steve Ballmer and Bill Gates. I know both those guys really well. I didn't feel like I had a seat at the table because I was an art major in college, and I'm a softer kind of guy. And I remember sitting down with women on the exec staff, and we'd talk about it, and we felt like we didn't have a seat at the table either. But I had, pardon my French, I had shitloads of customers that Bill and Steve never imagined that they would have, because MSN Messenger and Hotmail were 2 things that I built. And I had tons of customers using those 2 products, and they just liked them because they worked and they were easy, and So I think that, I don't know if that's an adequate answer, but I think focusing on customers solves a lot of things. Yes, sir.
You mentioned a lot of kind of landmines for companies in today's environment. You mentioned a lot of landmines for companies in today's environment. If you were speaking to today's boards, what would you advise them to get through this period of uncertainty?
Okay. I would advise them to focus on customers, keep your head low. I know it's bad. Keep your head low. Don't be the tallest nail on the board. There's safety in numbers. So I co-authored a note previous to our our presidential election, explaining, and I'm a Republican, believe it or not, why us Republicans were all voting for Kamala Harris. And then wrote a narrative about everything that's happening. So I think you will find that whether you are small business, big business, minority-owned business, not minority-owned business, that your problems are all common right now. And what's happening is pay attention to the tariffs, make sure you understand your supply chain really well, make sure your language is going to be okay, that you're not breaking a law because it's getting pretty weird, you're not really sure. So when I'm advising companies as a board member, I'm giving them that kind of advice. The other thing I'd say is business model really matters, and people are getting very, very comfortable with subscriptions. So if you're not in a subscription business, it's not a bad idea to think how you could turn your non-subscription business into a subscription business, because it's the best business on the planet to be in. Just ratable numbers that happen every month or every quarter, depending on how you sign people up, and it avoids a lot of the lumpiness of up and down, of cyclicality of people buying, whether it's a year subscription, a 3-year subscription. It actually is a really interesting barrier to making your company look really, really solid when it might actually be a sine wave. But it kind of just smooths it a lot. I've been involved with a bunch of those that have worked out and did that. Started doing that in my business at Microsoft in the early 2000s. Anybody else? I think my time is up, unless we got one more. Okay, ma'am.
Hi, I have a question. First of all, I really enjoyed your presentation.
Oh, thanks.
I'm a creator, I'm a designer, and I wanted to find out what is your view on the value of creativity with AI, because it seems everyone seems to think they can just create everything on AI with AI, but often it looks the same. There's no soul, there's no personality, in any of it. Right. So what would your thoughts be on that?
I'm a designer. I started my career in computer science as a designer. I was a fine art major in college, which qualified me to work at a Renaissance fair or a 7-Eleven. At least that's what my dad told me. Today with AI, I think if you think of AI as a tool that as a designer you can use, and becoming a really great prompter for designs, and then adding your touch to it. Now, I'm going to here's something talking out of school. Design with AI. Designed with AI. Designed with AI. It's not a real picture of him. Designed with AI. The last 4 slides, starting with the promise and threat of AI, were all developed with AI. They're okay. But the guy who did them, a dear friend of mine who works at Fanatics as an art director at Fanatics, they're great because he knows how to prompt and knows how to adjust the prompt and make it look really beautiful. So if you think about the classes you took to develop into being a great designer, you learned maybe pen and ink, watercolor, airbrushing, photo retouching, a whole bunch of stuff, logo creation, and it's really problem solving. I think as a designer that you figure out how do I express this in a way that is meaningful and easy to understand. I think those things are still there, and you have to look at AI as a tool. It's not going to replace you yet, but I think right now I look at it as a tool. I have known a bunch of people that went to go get computer science masters, and they ended up going down the AI route, and they just became great prompters. And those people are making a boatload of money. My son's running an AI company in Mexico City, and didn't start as an AI company. It is now. Like, the value proposition is like 80% AI, but it's what they're doing with it and what it's doing for their customers that's so incredible. Cool. Thank you very much.